Hey everyone, I'm the Shade Tree Pastor, and it's time for another 5 Minutes in the Bible. Today we're going to be taking a look at an Old Testament passage that is very well known and that I think also gets misunderstood and misapplied quite a bit. That's the passage from Leviticus chapter 24 that we most often summarize by quoting this one line, an eye for an eye. Let's take a look at it. I'm going to back up just a verse or two, just to give some of the context. This is Leviticus chapter 24, starting in verse 18. Anyone who kills an animal shall make restitution for it, life for life. Anyone who maims another shall suffer the same injury in return, fracture for fracture, eye for eye, tooth for tooth. The injury inflicted is the injury to be suffered. Now, a lot of times when we hear a passage like this today, it seems very antiquated. It seems very brutal. And in fact, by today's standards, it absolutely was. But I see this passage get misapplied a lot. Oftentimes, I see people, well-meaning people, using this to try to justify how we treat other people. That could be in a personal relationship, or it could be on a more societal level. Very often you'll hear people justify their own actions or the actions of their country or of their culture by saying, what about them? What about the bad things they have done? As if that justifies us treating someone badly. But when we do this, we're missing an important bit of context in the Old Testament. You see, these Old Testament laws given to the people of Israel, or that would become the nation of Israel, were actually quite progressive for their time. It was introducing a rule of law into societies and cultures that very often did not have that. In fact, saying that the injury or the punishment would match the injury was actually a way of restricting the level of punishment so that people were not punished beyond the crime that they had committed. In fact, we see Jesus take this idea and take it even a step further in Matthew chapter 5 in the Sermon on the Mount. Here's what he had to say about it. We begin in verse 38. You have heard that it was said, an eye for an eye, and a tooth for a tooth. But I say to you, do not resist an evildoer. But if anyone strikes you on the right cheek, turn the other also. And if anyone wants to sue you and take your coat, give your cloak as well. And if anyone forces you to go 1 mile, go also the 2nd mile. There's an old quote, often attributed to Gandhi, although I'm not sure that's legitimate. But that quote says this, an eye for an eye leaves the whole world blind. Jesus knew this. And to be honest, that's not what that Old Testament passage in Leviticus was about anyway. So stop using that as an excuse to get revenge for the wrongs you have suffered. And instead, do what Jesus has always taught his followers to do, which is to love our enemies.